Alright, you masters, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today I'm going to talk about net meshing and all 10 survival uses that you can have with those. But before we do that, if you're interested in survival courses in Belgium, there is a link to my book, to my survival courses in the description. There will be also a link to my book called Bloody Crosses. It's a detective story, it's in Dutch, so if you're interested, take a look, I would say. So, mesh net could be a handy survival tool, and I'm going to talk about 10 different survival uses you can do. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I've discovered some, how do you say this, some trick you can do with mesh netting. You all seen those mesh sweaters from the 80s that you always see party people carrying. I discovered that it's something that they wore in Sweden and Norway as a way to keep themselves warm. And you would think, how can mesh netting keep you warm? Well, for example, I've been trying this out. As you can see, it is some mesh netting with these resters. It's going all the way around my body. This is just a net. There are specially designed clothing. It's usually these days it's more be used by cyclists, but the idea behind this is it will keep you warm because all the netting beneath it, every hole you can see that is under your layers of clothing is a pocket of air that will insulate and keep the body heat trapped more beneath the beneath the base layer, so to say. So these are all tiny pockets of insulation where my body heat and air is being kept. A secondary benefit of it is it's the base layer is not pressing against the skin. So if you're starting to sweat or you get wet, then at least it's a little bit off the skin and it gets room to breathe and to dry out. So you don't have those wet spots, not that much, but you will not have that much wet spots that will start to also to attract the cold. And that's the idea behind it. I've been testing this out and I must say it works really good actually. I've been testing this out a few nights by wearing this beneath it, and I must say it keeps you very hot. So to say, I'm going to take this out. So imagine it's the daytime now after a cold night or whatever, and it's now it's getting a little bit warmer, so you don't want to get it too hot. So you can take this off just like this, and this is actually now the netting that you have. I just wrap this around a little bit like this beneath it, and then I put my t-shirt above it. But you have an extra layer of warmth underneath your base layer is the point. And now I'm going to tell you about other things that you can do with this. Another benefit you can have with one of those mesh nets is in the first place they are very light, and because they are light, this is almost my body height in mesh net that I have, and you can do so many things about it. For example, if you have stuff that you need to carry, let's say during a bug out scenario, you hunted for some birds or something like that. So you caught some game, rabbit, bird, whatever. You want to carrying it, but yeah, because you killed an animal, it will start to drop blood will drop from out of it. So you don't want to put it in your bug out bag because your bug out bag will get messy, blood stained, and it will attract animals even after a long time that you have used it up. So what you can do is you take the game and you put it herein, and while you carry it on your backpack, the droplets can fall through it and it will be not that messy. It will be easier to clean. So that's a benefit of it. Another thing you can do is you can use it as an improvised fish net. Yeah, simple. You go to a river, you set up a net or a contraption for a net, and you can catch fish like that. Another thing you can do is you can dry clothing in it. So you have, for example, you have some clothing, for example, that has gone wet, socks, you fell into the river, you want to dry your clothes, you put it inside of the mesh, You carry it on your bug-out bag on the back side, and because it's got all these mesh and pockets and holes, it can dry out and the winds can dry it too. So it's an easy way to dry more clothing than just hanging it on your bug-out bag, and you can do it all at once. And yeah, that's a thing that you can do. Another thing you can do is use it as camouflage. From close up, it's perhaps not that effective, but from far away, I don't know if you can see it, it gives some discolorization, especially if you're going to use it in multiple layers. You need at least 3 layers to make it not that visible. So if you're in the bush hunting or you're hunting for a game during a bug-out scenario, this is actually sort of a camouflage, and because it's mesh, you can also put some between 2 layers. You can put some plants between them, let them sting out, so your contour, your silhouette will be less visible, but it's less visible than just walking around with your face out, because this will be very visible even if I wear camouflage clothing. The face is always very visible. Excuse me. So after camouflage, the next thing is, if you have a broken arm, you can just, we all know this from first aid. I'm going to put this in a triangle. So if your arm is broken, you can just put it around it, make a knot. There is a more sophisticated technique where your whole arm can be in a triangle, but I'm an idiot for not preparing for this, but it's something like this you can do. You can make it wider, that the whole weight of the arm can be supported by it, but if you have a broken arm, that can be very handy. Next thing I would say is as a flotation device. If you have a bug-out bag and you need to cross any river because a bridge has collapsed or is being destroyed, then you can take, especially a mesh that is something big like this. You will always find trash around, empty bottles, plastic boxes. You can fill this up with as many empty bottles as it can carry. Put it all in, and then you have an improvised flotation device that you can put together. All these things you can also do with the shemak, except for certain things, but the shemak is more used for also as a towel. You don't want to do messy things like carrying wild game in a shemak, but I made a video about the shemak, about the 50 survival uses of it, but because it is so light and will not take that many space, I would say it's a worth idea to think about taking this in your bug-out bag. Another thing you can do is you can use it as an improvised pillow. So imagine you're going to sleep in an improvised shelter, or using the hobo technique that you're going to sleep. So you want to rest your head on something a little bit softer, and there is now so many layers that you can rest your head a little bit more comfy with it. And because this is more effective during the summer, because in the summer, if you want to rest your head against something, you will always notice that your pillow will start to keep the body heat in. You will sweat a lot, but with this mesh, it's a little bit of air circulation if you're going to sleep against it, that your body will not get too hot if you're going to sleep in an improvised shelter in a hot day. Last thing I would say is, of course, the same thing as with the shemak, using it as an improvised tourniquet. We all know, put it around your leg, not start to twist it, but you will have to twist it very, very hard with it. And because it's a mesh, you can spread it out a little bit more, but I would advise to do it in several layers, because otherwise the solitary pieces of mesh will rip. So you have to do it with multiple layers at least. And another thing you can do is use it as an improvised weapon. You can do this with the shemak. You just can take something like a rock, put it in like this, and use it as an improvised swinging weapon where the rock is inside of it and smack somebody with it, prison style. So yeah, this is perhaps not the greatest idea, but it's something that can justify to bring this with you for the multiple purposes that a shamak perhaps cannot do, or you want to save the shamak for other purposes than like if you're going to gathering water with, like do with shamak. You don't want this to get dirty. With this can be like your dirty rag if you want to clean something. I would prefer to do it with like this than with the shamak that I can use for gathering water like dew, or something else like that needs to be clean, more clean, like using it as a towel or something like that. I would say that is perhaps a good alternative or backup. How do you say this? Rack, so to say. I'm going to fold it up to see if I can make it even smaller. This is the smallest you can make it, I would say, and it weighs only, I would say, 30 grams or something. So it's not that weight, and you can, even if you're going to put it into one of those vacuum bags, you can make it even smaller than this. So I would say the first thing is try to, if you are able to do it, try to test out one of those mesh sweaters, so to say, and use it beneath your base layers, and try to think if it's needed that you're going to do something like catching game or some other prey like that. And of course for drying clothing, if you're in a wet area or there is a winter period, a lot of snow, fog, rain, or mist, then it can also be handy to have one of these to dry it during the drier moments, so to say. So if you get any other ideas to use for a mesh, I would say please let me know. I'm always eager to learn. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and see you in the next video. Cheers!